Germany is kicking off a year of anniversary events marking 1,700 years of Jewish life and culture in the country. The nationwide celebration will include performances, art installations, kosher food tasting sessions and many other events. The campaign deliberately aims to look beyond the persecution of Jews during the Holocaust. Instead, the focus is on the diversity of Jewish life in Germany's past and present.
Judaism has many faces in Germany today. Helena Shani Brown identifies as queer. She's soon to become a rabbi, and she's an avid Instagram user. She posts about religion, sexuality, and life in Berlin, and is representative of a generation connected by all of these aspects.
What many people learn about Judaism at school is really terrible, so they're not really learning anything. Or they're taught about National Socialism, but nothing about Judaism as it is lived today. That's why it kind of became my goal to show Jewish life just how it is.
Helena grew up in a religious household. She believes there are too few women in high positions, and she wants to change that. After completing her studies, the 23-year-old will likely be Germany's youngest female rabbi. She also wants to be the contact person she herself never had.
I'm very clear about the idea that nobody should have to choose between their Jewish and queer identities. You can't just choose what sexuality you're born with. You develop with your sexuality, and if you are Jewish, then you should be able to live both lives.
It's also thanks to women like Gesa Ederberg that the Jewish community has come so far. She had to fight hard to be recognized as a rabbi at all.
There were people who left the room when I entered, so I made sure that I was always there early, because then I was already seated and the others had to think about whether to sit down and join in or not.
Gesa Ederberg converted to Judaism. Now she's the rabbi of Berlin's new synagogue. Berlin is also where the very first female rabbi was ordained in 1935, Regina Jonas. Jonas, however, was limited to teaching religion and rabbinical pastoral care.
There she is, and you can basically see her main point, that God did not query gender. She just wanted to be a rabbi. She was the only female one, but that has to do with the Shoah. There were probably other young women who thought and dreamed of doing the same thing. And for me, it's just wonderful not to be the first.
The Holocaust is forever present for Jews in Germany. Regina Jonas was also murdered by the Nazis. She was forced to pay for her faith with her life. And what's it like today?
Anti-Semitism has gotten louder, and above all, it's become more outrageous. It's often hidden.
Judaism in Germany today is more diverse than it has been in decades. People like Helena will never let that be taken from them again.
Well, for more, I'm joined by Shelley Kupfenberg. She's an Israeli-born journalist who grew up in former West Berlin and works for various media outlets here in Germany. Shelley, thanks for joining DW. What does this day mean for you?
Actually, the day as such is not of great importance for me. Rather, the fact that Jewish life on the territory of today's Germany is so old. This is really astonishing for many people, also for me, I have to admit, and makes me also think, because it is a very difficult, violent history, as we know, a history marked by discrimination, exclusion and persecution, but also by participation.
Now, you've spent most of your life in Germany. What changes have you noticed in people's perceptions here of Jews and Judaism, and what hasn't changed enough?
Well, what has changed, I think, is a view, a perspective of nowadays Jewish life, because it can look so different. We have religious people, we have non-religious, very secular people, many artists from all over, many young Jewish, human beings come to Germany to join here. It has become very popular to be here in Germany, also as a Jew. And I think many of those younger Jewish people really commit toward this country and say, yes, we are a natural part of it. And I think this has really changed, because I grew up rather with this view on Jewish life in Germany in terms of, well, we sit on packed suitcases and we doubt if we really belong to this country.
Well, that sort of leads nicely into what I wanted to ask you next. Would you recommend Germany today as a place for Jewish people to live?
Yes, of course I would, although we have to admit that anti-Semitism, as we heard a few minutes earlier in the film, has become louder. I think it has been always there, but nobody talked about it so loudly. And this has really changed. But on the other hand side, we have a very, let's say, lively and a various and an interesting and a very diverse Jewish cultural life in Germany. And this is something everybody is invited to.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you very much, journalist Shelley Kifferberg, for that personal perspective.
You're welcome.